Hello everyone, this is Undiga, the Niger fertility lawyer, and today I'd like to talk about a very important principle in fertility law and fertility medicine, and this is the principle of informed consent. In any medical treatment, the law requires that whoever is receiving a treatment or participating in a medical procedure should be given the opportunity to give their full informed consent, which has to be documented before the commencement of that treatment. And fertility medicine requires not just the giving of consent, but informed consent. And the law specifically describes what informed consent means. Informed consent means that we are not just interested in collecting signatures, we are also interested in the process that happened, the processes that were implemented before that person picked up a pen and indicated their consent to that medical treatment. Informed consent means that whoever is being involved, whoever is being required to provide their consent, has been given enough information, all the relevant information about all the benefits and risks and consequences of either both accepting the treatment and not accepting the treatment. If any aspects of the risks or the benefits or any other information relating to the treatment have been withheld from the person, unlawfully withheld from that person, what it means is that that person has not been given the opportunity to provide informed consent. Now, what happens in fertility treatments, especially when it comes to surrogacy and gamete donation, which is egg or sperm donation, or being asked to receive a treatment using a donor egg or donor sperm, each and every person involved needs to be able to provide informed consent, and that informed consent must be documented. In fertility medicine, certain additional safeguards are implemented in regards to informed consent. And one of the first safeguards is that in very many countries, anybody who is going to be involved in fertility treatment will be asked to submit themselves to a psychological assessment to see whether they are emotionally and psychologically prepared to embark on the treatment. So not only would they be asked to do all the usual blood tests and chest x-rays and MRI scans and so on and so forth to establish whether or not they will be a suitable candidate for the treatment, but they will also be asked to go and they submit themselves to for a psychological assessment, which they have to pass before they can proceed with the treatment. So, in the process of putting the documentation together, the evidence of that counseling and the evidence of the psychological assessment is one of the important documents that we need to see. After the person has been cleared as being psychologically suitable for the fertility treatment, the next thing is that the person will need to go for counseling. Somebody who is very well qualified and proper trained would need to sit down with such an individual and give them, counsel them as to what to expect with the treatment and what are likely to be the implications of the treatment. Sometimes this is called implications counseling. And implications counseling goes beyond the immediate aftermath of the treatment. Maybe you will experience some pain or some tenderness or some bleeding, or maybe there might be the risk of infection. The implications counseling goes way beyond that. So say, for instance, if a person was considering going into a surrogacy, the person who is handling implications counseling must also consider the psychological element that may be involved in a mother, a woman, for instance, being asked to parent a child that she did not carry the pregnancy for, a child that is born by some other person and who she has to raise as her own. There would usually be some degree of psychological assessment that is required, and that counseling has to happen because very often in the process of the counseling, the person might decide that they are not prepared or that they're not willing to go through with the treatment. So there must be that opportunity for that person to be properly counsel to understand the full ramifications of what they're going through. Another person party who also needs to go through that process is the surrogate herself, who is going to be carrying a pregnancy on behalf of somebody else. And it's very important for this to happen because, generally speaking, there's always that economic imbalance between the surrogate and the intending parent, because many surrogates are motivated by financial gain to go into surrogacy. And so it's very important for there to be proper counseling for the surrogate to make sure she understands exactly what she's going into, and for her to understand the implications of that surrogacy or any future plans she might have to have children of her own. The same thing also applies to egg donors and sperm donors. They need to understand the implications of providing these eggs and sperm that will be used for somebody else. They'll be used for the treatment of somebody else, which will mean that somewhere out there, a genetic child of theirs has been brought into existence who they may not know and who may in the future might find a means of trying to track them down. They need to be made aware of the implications of participating in the treatment. And so, in summary, what we say in fertility medicine is that we're not just interested in collecting signatures. We're interested in the process which preceded the signing of the signatures on that document. And that process, the counseling, the assessments that have been done, the testing, all of these things have to be properly documented. And when we can find evidence of that having been done, of that psychological element preceding the signing of the documents, that is the only time when we can say that the requirements of informed consent have been met. Because in certain circumstances, if it is established that that preparation was not done before the signature was attached to that document, it could be argued on behalf of that person that they were not given an opportunity to provide informed consent. And we are looking for informed consent and not signatures when it comes to fertility treatments. I hope this has been helpful to you. Take care of them.